I'm sure you all remember very vividly, or most of you who are of age, where you were 15 years ago today. You may remember exactly what you were doing during this horrible act of terror against our nation. But you may also remember what happened in the aftermath. Our nation came together in prayer and solidarity with the victims. The churches were packed on the following Sunday, and we tried to make sense of this horror that had just happened, this terrible act of violence that we had just suffered as a nation. But in the years that followed 9/11, we began to see an unfortunate shift in the attitude toward religion in general and Christianity in particular here in the United States. People became more suspicious of organized religion. Certain groups like the New Atheist movement was gaining ground, a very militaristic movement against religion in general. And it has taken over the American mindset these last 15 years. People were saying, religion makes you radical. It makes you violent. Just look at what happened in 9/11. And it's not just physical violence that they're necessarily talking about. It's more of a spiritual violence. The church is viewed with suspicion because it imposes so many rules and regulations on people. It is violent toward people in that way. It's controlling of people. Or so goes the narrative. That's what we're told as a result of this movement. So as a result of this, many people have become alienated from the church. Especially among my generation, you see more and more who are losing all ties with the church. More and more who are ceasing all involvement with their faith in general. And I saw this firsthand when I went off to college, and one of the main messages that we got, especially in classes, from professors, from lectures that were going on, is you need to take off the shackles that held you bound when you were back home. And especially that of religion. What held you bound in these beliefs, you need to get rid of those to be able to form for yourself what your future will be and to define that. And so, one major reason why many have stopped practicing the faith, especially of my generation, is that to them the church is simply an outdated system of rules and regulations. Something that just imposes on you from above. Something that restricts your freedom. And something that tells them no when everything else in the culture is telling them yes. But is that the image that we get from the gospel we just heard today? When we read the parable of the lost sheep, does it give us an image of violence or restriction? Does it show a God who is controlling and manipulative? Does it show a church that is defined by rules and regulations that it just imposes on us? I think the obvious answer is no, not at all. That's not what we get when we read the gospel today. The gospel presents us with a shepherd who leaves behind his 99 sheep in safe pasture to go after that one sheep who was wandered away from the flock. It shows us a woman who basically turns her house upside down in order to find one gold coin that she lost. And I think this gospel is a perfect invitation, an invitation for us to remember what our mission as a church is. The mission is to seek out the lost. The mission is to spread the gospel in order that more people will be invited into that relationship with Christ. We, as Christians, are called to seek out those who have been lost, those who do not have a personal relationship with God and do not know the love that God has for each and every one of us. This is exactly what evangelization is. We hear that word, it's not some lofty term. It's right in our hearts. Evangelization means the good news, spreading the good news to those around us. It should be a concern that about 80% of our Catholic brothers and sisters do not come to Mass on Sunday. A lot of our family members and friends may be among those 80%, and it's not so much a tragedy that they're not coming to Mass. To me, it's more of a tragedy that they do not have a personal relationship with God. They don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, the one who loves us and the one who gave himself for us. Now that shouldn't be a reason to be pessimistic or despairing, but it's all the more reason to get out and to evangelize, to show a witness of our lives as Christians, to go out and spread that good news, to seek out the lost, the mission of our church. Later this week, we will begin our door-to-door evangelization. I'm sure Father Roque in the last few weeks has been saying that ad nauseam, but there's a reason for that. It's to get us out into the community. So I want to take this opportunity to make a pitch for evangelization. For those of you who had not signed up, I invite you to consider going door to door to share the gospel. Now, for those who are unable or uncomfortable with that, please consider praying for this event specifically, for the success of our evangelization, so that the gospel may be carried to those in our community, especially to those who do not know Christ. But even more simply than going door to door, I just want to offer what we all can do every single day. And that is evangelizing through our words and actions, giving a Christian witness, a witness to our lives as followers of Jesus. In the early years of Christianity, there were tons of people who were converting to the Christian faith to be followers of Jesus. In the early years of Christianity, we saw strong persecution against Christianity, where your life was in danger if you were found worshiping in a Christian community. But people converted because they saw something very unique. They saw a certain glow in the life of Christians. They saw a joy that permeated the life of every follower of Christ. They saw people who were so tightly knit and supportive. People saw that Christians loved each other so much. And they saw people who laid down their lives as martyrs for Christ. Who else would have done that back then? And it was this conviction that attracted so many people to eventually join the Christian faith. And many gave up their lives for it. So looking at ourselves, we can ask ourselves this question: how do we give Christian witness to those we meet? How do we show that our life is permeated with the same joy that the early Christians showed? And how do we give witness to that for others? We don't come to Mass simply because it's something we've always done. We don't come here because it's an obligation. We don't come here because we have kids in religious ed. We come here because we have received something precious from Christ. We have received a gift from God that is so great. And it's a tragedy if we don't appreciate that, if we don't live it out every day. If only our family members and friends knew of this joy that comes from a personal relationship with Christ, instead of seeing the church as a system of rules and regulations that imposes on them and restricts their freedom, if only they saw it as simply a personal relationship with Jesus. That is what our faith is all about. And so, it is our responsibility, with the grace that we have received, to cooperate with the Lord, to go and seek out the lost, and to invite them into a personal relationship with Jesus. So, in this week of evangelization, I invite you all to do whatever you can to evangelize. If that means going door to door, if that means praying for the success of our efforts, or if that means each and every day giving a Christian witness to everyone we meet, please do so. Let us go seek out the lost, invite people into a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and ultimately bring them back to the fold. Amen.